Do we want, oh, there it is being recorded.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's fine. So in this Dharma talk, I realized we were quoting from a couple of different women, actually. And I I have a sensitivity to being quoted to from what inspires other people when it may not be what inspires me or what I need at the time. So I'm sensitive around that. So, take what fits and leave the rest, as they say. You don't need to conform. Don't need to think this is well, it probably isn't the quote you would have picked. But on the other hand, I do feel good about bringing in more voices, because as we leave this retreat, we are going to be hearing a lot more voices. And so we chose the ones we felt were a good fit, at least for us and the direction of our practice.
Right. So the first quote is from Dorothy Thompson. And I didn't know about her before. She's new to me. Nelly, you've known of her in the past. She was an American journalist and a radio broadcaster, and was the first American journalist to be expelled from Nazi Germany in 1934. And she was one of the few women news commentators broadcasting on radio during the 1930s.
And here's the quote. Examining a number of types of Americans, she wrote that the line between democracy and fascism was not wealth or education or race or age or nationality. And actually, here's really the quote: kind, good, happy, gentlemanly, remember it's the times, secure people never go Nazi. They were secure enough to be good-natured and open to new ideas, and they believed so completely in the promise of American democracy that they would defend it with their lives, even if they seemed too easygoing to join a struggle.
But the frustrated and humiliated intellectual, the rich and scared speculator, the spoiled son, a labor tyrant, the fellow who has achieved success by smelling out the wind of success, they would all go Nazi in a crisis, she wrote. Those who haven't anything in them to tell them what they like and what they don't, whether it's breeding or happiness or wisdom or a code, however old-fashioned or however modern, those go Nazi.
So as we know, and as we sometimes hope it continues, we live in a democracy. The United States is a representative democracy. It's imperfect, yes, though that means our government is elected by citizens. Here, citizens vote for their government officials. These officials represent the citizens' ideas and concerns in government. Again, imperfectly.
And some might even say there's broken parts in our democracy. There's systems that aren't working within it. And that the direction of social equality, which is a principle of democracy, is in jeopardy. But there's still that basic value, that basic principle that we were formed upon and that we're living within. Okay, so and from there we're tying that principle to reflective meditation is a democratic practice, though imperfect. Our values to embrace diversity, collaboration, feministic principles, the values that humans have needs, that we need to practice self-care and practice care for all people, for sentient beings, for the earth we live on. This is our practice.
And it is democratic. We're not saying, some people are less than others, inherently. But democracies must be continually nurtured and protected. And this is a quote that Linda pulled off the web. Maybe this is AI again speaking.
Probably AI. So yeah.
AI has sort of been another voice that's been here with us. At any rate, the credibility of any democracy is its willingness to accept criticism, self-correct, and embrace diverse perspectives. These core attributes set democracies apart from authoritarian states where challenges to the status quo are repressed.
And we also will consider and do consider that the democratic process within our meditation and Sangha must be nurtured and must be something that we look to protect and want to protect. That really in our practice we are trying to have a safe environment to purify the poisons. This is one of the things that a practice does for us, that it helps us refine our intentions and actions and cultivate wholesome skillfulness, which, as Nelly and I have talked about, we've seen that happening here on the retreat. This process is apparent in the way you are talking about your experience.
Right. We've watched you reflect upon your intentions and really try to refine them. Yeah, we've really heard a lot of really deep consideration in that direction. Now, here's a quote that we've done before, but I think we're good with repeating it. Reflective meditation. In fact, we probably did it in the what we sent out to you about this retreat. Reflective meditation creates a holding environment, one where we're relatively still with the contents of our body, mind, and over time, develop the capacity to hold more internally. There's a classic Buddhist image of the archetypal bodhisattva of compassion, I'm not going to say it right, Avalokiteshvara, still not right, with 1,000 arms. While we'll never grow 1,000 arms, we are developing the capacity to hold more.
Yeah. That capacity to hold more, even if we're holding a single thing, as we talked about something happening in our lives, a diagnosis, family and friends in difficult times, but that single thing is complex and there's so much to it. There's no way we can really say we're only holding, only this. Again, this, go ahead, Nelly.
Well, maybe for the moment, we're just holding this because we're so focused, on whatever this is,
Yeah.
that's all we're holding in the moment. It doesn't work for the long run or the bigger. Yeah. That would lead to repression and denial in the bigger picture. So the direction of holding more, understanding that there are these times when things get focused or there's one pointed attention on something and they have their benefit, but we're more of the holding more ilk of practitioners.
So we want to repeat the last line of the first quote we read. Those who haven't anything in them to tell them what they like and what they don't like. Whether it's breeding or happiness or wisdom or a code, however old-fashioned, however modern, if you don't have anything in you telling you what you like or don't like, you're more susceptible to go Nazi. And our meditation practice helps us know what we like and don't like, and where we stand on issues, and what our discernments are around sorting out the complex inner worlds that we live with. And we do this rather than just following a charismatic leader or trying to get all on the same page with all group thinking exactly the same.
Or again, or another way of saying that is to conform. We're the nonconformist practice. Rather than all doing the same thing at the same time, we are sorting out what works for us, what doesn't work for us, what we like, what we don't like. And I believe that kind of discernment, I think it might go a long way to not being drawn into something authoritarian or Nazi-like. So these times demand an appropriate response to dukkha. That's what our practice is a lot based on. That's the first ennobling truth that the Buddhism lays out, that there is dukkha, there is pain, there's awfulness, there's just, well, disgust isn't usually, there's suffering, there's hurt, there's all this stuff that it's right in our face right now. I mean, in our collective faces, we've had our own individual versions of it. But once again, I say once again, because the pandemic is not very far away. Once again, the appropriate response to dukkha is really the path that we're on. And that's a great challenge. And it's a great challenge always, I'd say. But I'd say it was maybe perhaps even a greater challenge in some of the times, at least I've lived through in my life. Like, how can we hold the contents and the of our minds and the happenings in the world in a somewhat appropriate way, in a somewhat skillful way? That is a big question.
So we're going to put another quote in here. And this one was posted on Facebook by George Draffin. He's a Dharma teacher, Dharma friend. He's done a lot for the Northwest Dharma, right?
I would go so far as to say that I'm not sure the Northwest Dharma Association would exist today if not for all the work he'd done for decades. It seems like fairly selflessly. And he's been a big supporter of Pine Street Sangha, and maybe all the Sanghas in the Pacific Northwest. And Linda and I became Dharma friends with them, Kalyana Mita. I sort of picked up that, he had gone through something with his teacher where inappropriate things his teacher had been doing inappropriate things, let's just say actions. And he was in the upper, teaching rung below his teacher. And he, anyway, we reached out to him because we were now in a similar situation. And that he became a very supportive Dharma friend.
He's an example of paying it forward, that kind of passing it on, like with the kind of knowledge that you have about something, that you don't just keep it to yourself, you actually help others. And he put a chart together that Nelly and I, we studied. I remember studying that chart, and it's also part of my ethical reflecting course. So there's just a way that he came in and really at the right time, again, appropriate response to dukkha, was able to kind of catapult us into some other understandings about what happens when a Sangha splits.
Yeah, and just how painful that is. Yeah. So, and I chose this quote because I really think it expresses some of Linda and mine, and there's other teachers on this call as well who teach at the Daily Online. And I think it kind of expresses some of our intentions as we go forward, into what the next weeks, months, years will hold. But it wasn't written by George. It was written by this woman I'd never heard of again, Pam L. Houston. And I just took a sentence quote from her, someone's opinion, that she's a brilliant writer and thinker. She personally had to overcome unspeakable tragedies, and she rose and she persevered.
So I'll start off the quote, Nelly.
Yeah, please.
A shooting star fell outside my window last night. and my stomach clenched because I realized my relationship to hope, to wishes, had changed utterly this week. And then I realized that all wishes now needed to be replaced with something closer to determination. We must make communities now of whatever size that support all those who have become radically more vulnerable.
We must make micro countries of love inside this larger country of cruelty. Oh God, I love that sentence so much. I have to read it again. We must make micro countries of love inside this larger country of cruelty. Small communities that prioritize difference and expression and safety and joy. In other words, we have to do what we have always done, just more determinately. So I guess that quote helped me so much because I want to keep doing what I've always done. I don't know how to make a sharp left and do different things. Well, and I have done it pretty determinately, but it does feel like it supports the teaching of the Dharma.
It also feels like it's a validation of what we started and can continue. And I think many of us who've been in this practice for a long time, we are looking for ways to validate what we're doing, that support, and show the kind of knowledge that we've gotten from practice, and say it in other ways. And I thought it was beautifully expressed.
So that's our talk. Yes.
Yes, that's our talk. So we're thinking